Hello viewers, welcome to Top Notch Online TV. Today we shall be looking at an in-depth understanding of the book Fathers of Nations, and we shall be looking at the main characters in the book. For a student to answer all the questions well in the Fathers of Nations, then you have to talk about the main characters that we have in the book. To start off, we shall look at Professor Karanja Kimani. Teacher Emmys, kindly take us through.
Thank you. So, Professor Karanja Kimani is a Kenyan, 60-year-old professor at the Institute of Development Studies at the University of Nairobi. So, he has suffered under the hands or in the hands of the Kenyan leaders, being a Kenyan, and as a result, he joined Agada. So I'll give a background information about Professor Karanja Kimani. Just like I've said, he's a lecturer or a professor at University of Nairobi. So when he joined University of Nairobi, he brought change into the university. So we can see someone who is well informed, someone who is educated, and someone who loved his job and his career as a teacher. At some point, he tells people close to him, especially his family members, that he was born a teacher, when they suggest that maybe he can have a change of a career. So Professor Kimani, when he joined University of Nairobi, got married to Asia Omondi, his wife, and as a result, he earned himself a promotion. They were blessed with one girl, a daughter called Tony, and she was named Tony because they believed that she was conceived in Tunisia. So that's why her name is Tony. So Professor Karanja lost her daughter. She was a grown-up by then to a road accident, which he believed was as a result of the negligence of the government of Kenya. He believes that the government is not doing things that they are mandated to do. Things like making sure that the country has good roads, things to do with making sure that there is enough security detail for the citizens of Kenya. Also paying good salaries to the civil servants or the employees in the country. So he feels that the government has failed. So when he lost his daughter, he blames it entirely to the government, because the government, maybe if they had paid him better salary, he would have bought himself a good car. As a result, his daughter would not have used public transport. He had a very hot car. And at some point, his wife, Asia, compares that car to Professor Kimani's life. He says that in a very cruel way, he says that the car is a metaphor to his life. Just like the car is going nowhere, so is Kimani's life or future is going nowhere, because according to her, Kimani was not ambitious. So when they lost their daughter, things became bad. There was some sort of tension between him and his wife for some time. And after 6 months, I think they were done they were done grieving the loss of their daughter. So one day, Asia just woke up and announced to Karanja that she is leaving the marriage. They had been married for about 30 years, and one day she just wakes up and tells him that she's leaving. And upon inquiring where she's going and why she's leaving, she boldly tells him that she's going to get married to MP Mr. Newborn Walomu. We also understand that Newborn Walomu, now I think this was the hurting part for Professor Karanja, was a former junior colleague of Professor Karanja who left teaching for politics. So he left teaching and went into politics, and he was able to get the seat of a member of parliament. Also, Walomu was way younger than Professor Karanja and his wife. He also had 3 young, beautiful wives. So Asia was leaving her husband of 30 years for a younger man who already has 3 young, beautiful wives. So it's like you don't really understand the kind of betrayal. We don't that this is it must have been so painful to Professor Karanja. So it was so hard for him that he decided to go and confront Mr. Newborn Walomu in his office. So he goes there and of course he mocks him. He tells him that, okay, I think he asked the reason why.
Why are you taking my wife? She's old.
No, you have 3 beautiful
women. So why are you taking this old woman?
Why are you taking my wife, who is already too old? She can't even give you children. She's already that 60 years old. What use is she to you?
Yes.
And to try and mock him, Newborn says that old is gold.
Wow.
So that is why, and it's like that the air of like, I'm doing it because I can.
Yeah, sure. I have.
So that angers Professor Karanja more, and so they engage in a physical fight.
Yeah.
And of course, judging from the differences in their age, of course, there is no way Mr. Karanja had a chance of winning that physical fight.
Yeah.
He loses. And the secretaries call in the police, and both of them are arrested.
Yeah.
Walomi is a member of parliament. There is no way he's going to spend a night or 2 days in prison.
Yeah.
So he's released, and later on, of course, he goes back to his office. And who is charged?
Professor Kimani.
Professor Kimani, because he's the one who went to
Walomu's
office
yes.
to go and fight him. So when he leaves prison, he has lost everything.
Yeah.
He has lost his only child, Tony. He has lost his wife of 30 years, Asia. And when he came back, of course, the university said that he was an embarrassment to the university. So also as a result, his career has suffered a blow. So he's left desperate. He has lost everything that he called his own. So he's in his own home, all alone, with no work, with no one. And slowly, it's like he was, maybe probably say that he was falling into some sort of depression.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. So before Agda came and saved him. So when now this director of Agda, Mr. Tad Longway, approaches him and offers him this deal, explains to him what Agda is about, explains to him what Path Alpha is about, then he has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has lost it all.
Yes, he eagerly joins Agda to try and fight this government and create a better future, or a better environment, or a better government for the other citizens. So that's all that you can say about Professor Karanja.
Wow, that is so well done. And maybe an addition to what Teacher Emmys has shared is that Professor Karanja Kimani is Kenyan.
Yes.
He's Kenyan. So as we look at some of the issues that he's going through, we just look at our country and talk about some of the problems that the citizens face. We are looking at MPs who keep on adding more money to their salary. But what happens to our lecturers?
Nothing.
They get peanuts. But in a way, I'll just say once a teacher, always a teacher. And this is why we see Professor Kimani saying that he was born to be a teacher. But on the other hand, if you're looking at Asia wants a man with an ambition. And just given that Professor Karanja Kimani didn't have any ambition, she decides to go for a younger man, and who knows, a man with more money. Was it right? We shall be discussing that in the next session. The next thing we shall look at is Comrade Melusi. Teacher Rispa, what can you say about this character?
Okay, I'll take you through Comrade Ngobile Melusi. And Ngobile Melusi hails from Zimbabwe. He had been among the people who had fought the white man out of Zimbabwe. They're symbolically referring to the white man as Smith. They had fought Smith until they had gained their independence. Then what happens after they've gained their independence? What happens is that one among the people who had fought the white man decides to, by the vote of the other people, he's made to be their new leader. After he ascends to power, this man now is already strengthening his supporters. At the same time, he's fixing his opponents. And who are these opponents? To him, anyone who's not from the tribe, from his tribe, actually is seen as a threat. He becomes the enemy. among the people who are fixed as a result of belonging to the wrong tribe, there are these people who belong to Ngobile's side, Melusi's side. There are the people who belong to the Ndebele ethnicity, while the people in the Shona ethnicity, they're actually being rewarded. To fuel the anger of the Ndebele people, the leader decides, let's do this. Let me fire the person who was at the helm. Almost, let's say, as a right-hand man.
Yeah.
But the right-hand man belonged to the Ndebele. This man decides, I'll fire that man. Later on, this was met with a lot of hostility. The Ndebele people felt, why are you firing our man?
Yeah.
As a result of firing their man, the Ndebele people decide to go on a riot to protest the sacking of their man.
Yeah.
And the government decided, who's the government? We need to retaliate. The people were put in their place. Yeah. The leader called upon the security agents, and the people were wiped away like chaff. Looking at that incident, it was terrible to an extent that whenever Melusi remembers it, tears actually well in his eyes. He's still emotional from the fact. Then the people decide, we need a change, we really need a change. Some of them, like Melusi, they decide to form parties. Like, for example, Melusi forms a party called NIP. And NIP is supposed to represent the opposition. Then again, the government does not want any change. The government decides it will punish any dissenting voices. Yeah. And for that, the next retribution, Melusi's wife suffers. Yeah. She is actually strangled. Yeah. She's actually strangled and positioned in the kitchen like some kind of, I'll show you. He needs to see what has been done. Yeah. At the same time, the people are protesting. The economy of Zimbabwe is in shambles. Yeah. Even the international community comes up with giving them a condition that we need to revive the economy. You need to come up with a structural adjustment program. Let's simply call it SAP. And it was supposed to correct the anomalies in the economy. There's a problem with the leadership in Zimbabwe. The opposition decides, all of them are greedy for power. They do not want to front one of them to become the opposition leader against the father of the nation, the one who's sitting at the helm. Yeah. As a result, they lose terribly in that election. The ruling party takes 99%, while the others
1%.
that had they only get 1%. Yet they had fronted very many people. Yeah. And another thing now, to punish the 1%, someone just got 1%, but they're still punishing the 1%. What do they do about it? They decide the 1%. In fact, most of them live in the slum. They send in bulldozers, and the informal settlements are brought down. Yeah. That is also a punishment that they are made to suffer. Further looking at Melusi, he is a representation of poverty. You can see the way he's being offered some kind of a meal by Mr. Longway. This man eats his food. He even goes ahead to eat Longway's food. It is supposed to be a representation of the hunger. Yeah. Hunger as a sign of the poverty. Yeah. And later on, he's told money will no longer be a problem. Therefore, he willingly joins AGDA. Yeah. And to add to that, he was already among the people that could fit the AGDA profile. People who are aggrieved by the government. Therefore, they were seeing a need for change. And we see Melusi finally becoming a traveler on Path Alpha. That is it.
Wow, that was so well done. And so if we're just looking at Comrade Melusi, this is a person who has suffered so much. Imagine the pain of losing your wife. You just walk to your house one day and you find your wife on the table, dead, strangled. It's such a painful ordeal. So we're just looking at impunity. So Melusi was out there giving his all to do everything that he needed. But what happens? He doesn't get anything out of it. In any case, we're looking at 1%. What is 1%? And yet, as much as they're getting the 1%, then they don't get anything. They don't get anything out of this. So, of course, that was well done, Teacher Rispa. The next character that we shall be looking at is Pastor Chiamaka. And at this time, maybe I should say, praise God. So we are having Teacher Emis to take us through the character of Pastor Chiamaka.
Okay. Pastor Chiamaka is a Nigerian.
Yeah.
A former pastor, because he's no longer a pastor, a former pastor of the church inside Africa. He's 50 years old, and he's introduced as the third person to be recruited into the AGDA, or the Traveler of the Path Alpha. So, first of all, in the beginning, Chiamaka was not a pastor. He was just a Chiamaka.
Yeah.
And he's brought out as someone who is very arrogant,
Yeah.
and someone who does not follow the law. He's not law-abiding citizen.
Sure. Yes.
Because he owns a Mercedes. He was a well-off citizen of Nigeria, and he never followed any laws that were put in place for the citizens of Nigeria. We are taught, for example, using his Mercedes, he never followed any traffic rules. For example, that one time that he was supposed to take his brother to university, who was already late for the lecture. So he assures his brother that he can never be late, because he knows the speed at which he drives.
Yeah.
It's past the speed limit in the Nigerian roads.
Yeah.
So he's brought out as that arrogant citizen who never cares about following the laws or in the Nigerian government.
Yeah.
Until one day a misfortune happened. As he was this kind of person, whenever he found traffic, he would just switch to the wrong lane, and then he would go hooting to all other motorists to pave way for him, until now a misfortune happened. He comes across it was a fire engine. It was a fire truck that refuses to pave way for him, and then there is a head-on collision. So the truck, of course, is bigger than his Mercedes. What does the truck driver do? He just, of course, flees from there.
Unscathed.
Yes, unscathed from the scene of accident. So Chiamaka is like disturbed. He's like shocked that not even a single car stopped to help him. They all just swept past his car, and he was left there. No one wanted to know if he was hurt. No one wanted to know if he was dead, if he was still alive or not. So that was like a wake-up call to him. He was like, hey, then I need to change. So what does he do? He gives his life to Christ. He changes, and then he starts going to church. He starts initially by listening to other pastors preach. He gets age of 8, as in how this is done. And then he starts getting sermons here and then preaching. And eventually he graduates, and he opens his own. I think he opens his own church.
Yeah, he does.
That he names Church Inside Africa. So now he uses this church as a platform to like address the issues that are affecting the African countries, especially in Nigeria. So on this particular day, during his sermon, he starts by, of course, using an analogy to if you went and picked some money, what would you do? God is seen. I actually think the motto or the title of that sermon was
Someone is watching.
Someone is watching. Thank you.
Someone
is watching. Everything you do, someone is watching. And from that platform, from is theirs up there, that's when now he uses I think the gospel to attack the current government. So he speaks about the incompetence in the Nigerian government, how the president does not handle the situations. They actually we call them what important matters in the government with the importance that they require or they deserve. He talks about how he refers to matters as just like an issue. And of course he wraps what off in a bad way to the government of Nigeria, and he's arrested. He's arrested for speaking against the government. So you can try see how this government, how corrupt this government is, and they don't want their ways questioned by anyone. They don't want their questions always questioned by anyone. So he's arrested, he's imprisoned, and when he's finally released from prison, his license as a pastor is revoked. He's banned from ever preaching again in Nigeria. So he loses his license as a pastor. He also loses his church inside Africa. And of course, that someone alone does not change what happens in the government of Nigeria. So he's left a bitter man because he now has no voice and he still can see the rot that is happening in Nigeria. So when Third Longway approaches him, of course, just like the rest, he feels that he has nothing to lose, and he willingly accepts the offer, and he also becomes one of the travelers of Path Alpha, with the aim of changing or how the Nigerian people are governed, or with the aim of solving the crisis in leadership in the African states.
So that was well done. Looking at Pastor Chiamaka, he's such a comical character. We see him not abiding in any role given. And when we see him talking to his younger brother who wanted to go to the university and he did not want to be late for the lectures, he tells him, I will be there in no time. So when we look at everything that Chiamaka is doing, in a way we see a reflection of what we have in our country. We have drivers who keep using the wrong side of the road. And it's the same thing that is happening in Nigeria. But what happens when he has that accident? It is a changing moment for him. He decides to become a pastor. But what does he do? He uses this platform to actually now attack or just call out the government. Some of the issues that were happening in the leadership in Nigeria, this is what he uses. But we know the government. If you're not supporting the government, what happens? You'll just be thrown into jail. And this is what happens to Pastor Chiamaka. And of course, now when we find Longway asking him to be a part of AGDA and just support the document Path Alpha, he does it without anything that is stopping him. So the last main character that we'll be looking at, students, is Engineer Tahir, and Teacher Rispa will take us through.
Okay. Another opportunity to speak about one among the major characters. Let's tackle Saif Tahir. Saif Tahir is a citizen of Libya. He had been born when the father of nation had already taken over power. And we are looking at Tahir. Tahir used to be an admirer of that president for reasons such as the man had nationalized all businesses, any business belonging to the white man, yet it had been changed, it becomes a business belonging to a Libyan. Another thing that made Tahir admire the president had actually closed all foreign military bases in Libya. If I look at Tahir, in fact, I'm seeing that he's being fueled by sentiments of nationalism. And maybe my viewers, to understand what nationalism is. Nationalism is that feeling of pride in your own country, of superiority of your own country. And he felt that through this leader, we shall go far as Libyans. Anything that Tahir is doing is we as Libyans. Now Tahir takes a course at the university in Tripoli. He majors in engineering. After that, he seems like a bright chap because now he has to further his education. He goes to a university in Paris. When he goes to that university, he intends to study weapons development in Paris. Then people are also mocking him. They're asking, of what use would development of weapons be to our country? But he just tells them, you wait and see. It will come of age and you'll see the importance of why I'm studying this. Then it coincides. When Tahir is coming from his studies abroad from Paris, it was the same day that the leader was celebrating his being in power for 20 years. And Tahir, being a fan of this leader, is also among the people who are happy about the long stay in power for that particular leader. Then there is Tahir is invited to work in the Ministry of Defense for Libya. And together, they'll be developing nuclear weapons. Tahir, actually, it is like his dream is finally coming true. And now they decide to develop the military program that they're calling the Feast of Allah.
Yeah.
The Feast of Allah, the naming of it, they're trying to show that it is beyond human control. It is like a work of God, the Feast of Allah.
Yeah.
And their main reason for developing the Feast of Allah was actually for the purpose of deterring enemies, not actually for fighting, according to them. Deterring enemies, if you could translate simply, it was for their own protection. Then what happens? Suddenly, Al-Qaeda strike America. When Al-Qaeda strike the USA, they know that there will be dire consequences. And in the retaliation, USA will not be applying any reason. They'll be striking any country that they know is developing any nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Now Libya, out of fear of a superpower, Libya decides, let's destroy the Feast of Allah. This has been Tahir's project for quite some time. Now Tahir is very much aggrieved. He feels this is a mistake beyond forgiveness. How can the president, in fear of USA, destroy our program, our nuclear program, yet it was for the purpose of deterring our enemies. It gave them some kind of power. We as Libyans, Libya is now somewhere to be reckoned with in the map of the world, a force to reckon with. Another thing that happened to Tahir, after he was still sitting with anger, after the program had been called off, this man is still sitting with anger. Then it happens, the man falls in love with a certain Miss Mahmoud.
Yes.
The name was Miss Mahmoud.
Yeah.
Miss Mahmoud, he realizes, this woman is beautiful. And one of these fine days, I better ask this woman out. So he calculates. Finally, he gets the courage, and then he asks the woman, can we go out maybe perhaps on Thursday? The woman remains silent.
Yeah.
Okay, he takes it to mean the woman might have been very nervous. Let me now make the final decision. He tells the woman, let's meet on Saturday for a date. Suddenly the woman speaks. And what is her answer?
No.
Her answer is no. No. This man is shocked. How can she even say no?
Yeah.
And this is already a man who was dealing with his own problems. The man decides, I will retaliate. He waits for a chance.
Yeah.
Sooner than later, a chance presents itself whereby the woman was intending to change into her work gear. Now she decided to take off her head,
Hijab.
the
Yeah,
hijab, the head veil.
Yeah.
Tahir just timely decides that just when she has taken off the hijab, he goes and slaps her, and he's using the backing of their culture.
Yeah.
He's banking on culture to support what he has done. But in reality, we know that he's being fueled by the fact that the woman had rebuffed his advances. And this woman was not going to take it lying down. The woman decides to defend herself. When she's defending herself, the woman takes what is closest to her. It was a paper cutter. I think a paper cutter. Using that paper cutter, when the woman is trying to retaliate, what happens? The woman pierces his eye. Now this man ends up in the hospital for a month. And after leaving the hospital, he's given an artificial eye. Now, apart from the physical harm. Yes, the physical harm that handicap, the physical handicap the eye brought upon Tahir, it was also some kind of emotional. He looks at himself, I no longer have an eye. In fact, I have a space. And up to there, Tahir, being a bitter man, when the idea of Agda comes on his table, that he's invited to join, he takes it willingly, and he wants to restore the order. The state of affairs that are in a sorry state, they need to be brought back to order. Africa needs to be felt, and he thus joins Agda.
That is so well done. Looking at Engineer Tahir, Of course, he's a very bitter man.
Yeah.
He's so bitter, feeling that the government had failed him. He lost his eye, and he walks with an emptiness, a certain emptiness that makes him welcome the idea from Third Long Way so willingly. So looking at this character again, he's looking forward to joining Path Alpha in a way to try and change the happenings in his country. Now, Miss Mahmoud had to lose her eye also. So we're also looking at certain cultures in certain African countries. And maybe as we discuss themes at a later stage, then we shall be looking at the plight of women in the African countries. What women go through. Is a woman allowed to say no? Is that no supposed to be a no? Are you supposed to be punished for actually just saying no? So plight of women, of course, is another idea that we shall be looking at in the Fathers of Nations. And as we wrap up in the next episode, we shall be looking at the guide. Students, do you know who is the guide in the Fathers of Nations? We shall be looking at this in the next episode. We get to know the person who was actually connecting the four main characters as they prepared to join AGDA. And this is an agency for governance
and development in
for
Africa.
So in a way, as much as Paul Vita is looking at how the citizens just sit down and accept the status quo, in a way, they just want to progress and have something new. And that is why we shall be looking at the two documents and the person who was told to be the guide. And this is Dr. Afolabi, Dr. Afolabi. Until next time, it's a thank you from our panel with me today. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much.